Second chances. The words taste bitter on my tongue as I stare at the photo album Diana has just handed me. My sister, looking decades younger, her smile genuine instead of calculated, stands next to our father in front of his first restaurant opening. I've never seen this picture before. I've never seen this side of her before. The afternoon sun filters through the calf window, casting a golden glow over our table tucked away in the corner. Diana's once perfect manicure is chipped now, her designer clothes replaced by a simple blouse and slacks. The transformation is jarring. I found these while clearing out my apartment, she says, her voice lacking its usual polish. Thought you might want them. 3 months ago, I discovered she had stolen nearly $300,000 from our father's trust fund, money he had set aside for my dream of opening a cooking school. Today, she sits across from me, humbled and changed, asking for something I'm not sure I can give: forgiveness. I close the album, my fingers lingering on its worn cover. Why did you do it, Diana? Why did you steal from me? From Dad's memory? Her eyes, so like mine, so like our father's, fill with tears. For once, they seem genuine. Because I was afraid, she whispers. Because I've spent my entire life terrified of being nobody. The confession hangs between us like a tangible thing. And suddenly, I'm wondering how we got here. Two middle-aged sisters, one rebuilding her life from scratch, the other finally daring to start living hers. It all began 3 months ago, with a leather-bound account book and a Facebook post that changed everything. Flashback, the discovery. Rain pelted against the windows of Dad's study as I sorted through his belongings. 6 months after his death, Mom and I had finally gathered the courage to clear out his personal effects. The study smelled of leather and his favorite sandalwood cologne, a scent that made my heart contract painfully in my chest. Caroline? Mom called from downstairs. Do you want some tea? Yes, please, I answered, pulling another dusty book from the shelf. At 52, I hadn't expected to be starting over. 20 years at Pearson Publishing, culminating in my position as senior editor, had ended with an early retirement package, corporate speak for pushing out the older, higher salaried employees. The severance was generous, but the future loomed uncertain. Behind a row of accounting books, something caught my eye, a leather-bound ledger I hadn't seen before. I pulled it out, dust dancing in the afternoon light. Inside was a detailed record of a trust fund. My name was listed as the beneficiary. For Caroline's culinary school. To be released upon my death or her 50th birthday, whichever comes first. Michael Thompson, 2015. My hands trembled. Dad had known about my dream, the one I'd been too afraid to pursue, the one I'd confided in him during our Sunday dinners but never acted upon. A cooking school of my own, where I could share my passion for French cuisine. The trust contained nearly $300,000, enough to lease a space, buy equipment, and cover operating costs for the first year. My throat tightened. Even in debt, Dad believed in me more than I believed in myself. The ledger also listed Diana as the trustee. My older sister, always the favorite, always the successful one. Editor-in-chief at Vogue Living, her Instagram feed a carefully curated display of designer fashion and exclusive events. We'd grown apart over the years, our Sunday family dinners becoming increasingly strained as Diana's criticisms of my small life grew more pointed. My phone buzzed. A text from Margaret, my college roommate and still my closest friend after 30 years. Have you seen Diana's latest FB post? The one from the Four Seasons Maldives. I hadn't. Diana and I weren't connected on social media anymore. Her choice, not mine. It clutters my professional image, she'd explained with that condescending smile. I opened Facebook and navigated to her public profile. There she was, lounging in a private infinity pool overlooking crystal blue waters, champagne flute in hand. The caption read, "Sometimes you have to invest in yourself. Premier villa, personal butler, private chef. Worth every penny. Hash best life, hash luxury travel, hash self-care." The post was dated 2 weeks ago, the same week Diana had informed me, with practiced sympathy, that Dad's finances had been a mess after his death, and that there was nothing left for any kind of inheritance. My stomach clenched as I flipped through the ledger again. The last entry showed a withdrawal of the entire balance on March 15th. Diana's elegant signature authorized the transaction, alongside another signature that looked wrong somehow. Forced. The ink pressure uneven. I picked up my phone with shaking hands. "Margaret," I said when she answered. "I need your help. And I think I need a lawyer." Flashback the plan. Margaret's downtown office was all clean lines and modern efficiency, much like Margaret herself. After her own divorce 10 years ago, she'd reinvented herself as one of Boston's top executive coaches. Her wall of credentials and industry awards spoke of a woman who understood reinvention. "You're sure about this?" she asked, gesturing to the trust documentation spread across her glass conference table. "Because once we bring in Richard and Elaine, there's no turning back. Diana will know you're coming after her." I stared at the Facebook photos we'd printed out. Diana at the luxury resort, Diana showcasing a new Hermes bag, Diana at a Michelin-starred restaurant in Paris. All posted within weeks of cleaning out my trust fund. "I'm sure," I said quietly. "It's not even about the money anymore. It's about Dad's wishes. It's about her looking me in the eye and lying. And it's about me finally standing up for myself." I thought but didn't say. The door opened, and Richard Thompson entered. No relation to us, but my father's friend since college. They'd started in finance together, though Dad had left to pursue his dream of owning a restaurant while Richard had risen through the ranks to become a respected investment advisor. "Caroline," he said warmly, embracing me. "I wish we were meeting under better circumstances." "Thank you for coming," I replied, suddenly self-conscious. Richard had always seen me at my best: family celebrations, Dad's restaurant anniversaries. Not like this, clutching evidence of my sister's betrayal. "Michael was my oldest friend," he said simply. "I owe him this. And I owe you the truth." He examined the withdrawal document, his expression darkening. "This second signature, it's supposed to be mine. As the secondary trustee, I needed to approve any withdrawal over $10,000. He looked up, eyes serious. "I never signed this. This is forgery." A soft knock, and Elaine Harper entered. Mom's friend from law school, now a partner in her own practice specializing in estate law. Her silver bob and tailored suit projected quiet authority. "I've reviewed everything," she said, sitting beside me. "Caroline, your sister has committed multiple crimes here. Fraud, forgery, theft. We have all the evidence we need to go to the authorities." I closed my eyes briefly, the weight of what we were discussing suddenly overwhelming. "I don't want her to go to jail," I said. "I just want what Dad left for me." Elaine's expression softened. "Then we'll pursue this as a civil matter first. But we'll use the threat of criminal charges as leverage. The first step," Richard added, "is documenting everything. Every withdrawal, every purchase she's made with your money. We build an airtight case. Then," Margaret continued, "we confront her with the evidence. Not emotionally, not accusingly. Calmly and with absolute certainty." "What if she denies it?" I asked. Elaine smiled thinly. "People like Diana always believe they're the smartest person in the room. We'll use that against her." As they outlined the strategy, memories flooded back. Diana getting the first car, Diana's college tuition prioritized over mine, Diana's accomplishments displayed proudly while mine were acknowledged with a distracted nod. Always the family star, always the favored one. "Caroline?" Margaret's voice pulled me back. "Are you with us?" I nodded, a strange calm settling over me. "Yes. Let's do this." Flashback of the investigation. "You need to see this," Richard said, sliding his tablet across his mahogany desk. 3 days into our investigation, we were meeting in his financial firm's conference room. On the screen was a bank security image showing Diana at a teller's window, the forged document clearly visible in her hand. "The bank has confirmed she presented this document on March 15th, he continued. "When the teller questioned the withdrawal amount, Diana claimed it was for your medical expenses." My jaw tightened. "Medical expenses? I haven't even had a cold this year." "She also," Elaine added, reviewing her notes, "told the bank that you had specifically requested the funds in cashier's checks rather than a transfer." 2. Avoid complications with your insurance. The bank should have flagged this as suspicious, but given her standing in the community and her role as trustee, they trusted her. I finished bitterly. We've traced the cashier's checks, Richard continued. First class airfare to the Maldives, $42,000. 5 night stay at the Four Seasons, $31,000. Shopping sprees in Paris and Milan totaling $85,000. A new Mercedes S-Class, $120,000. And various smaller expenses. Each figure struck like a physical blow. Not just the amounts, but what they represented: Diana's complete disregard for our father's wishes. For my dreams. I've also been monitoring her current finances, Richard said, his expression grave. She's heavily leveraged. Mortgage underwater, credit cards maxed out. The trust fund wasn't just a temptation. It was a financial lifeline for her. My sister, the successful editor-in-chief, was broke? The revelation stunned me. How is that possible? She makes at least 3 times what I did at Pearson. Margaret, ever the pragmatist, pulled up Diana's Instagram feed. Image maintenance is expensive. Designer wardrobe, luxury vacations, exclusive restaurants, that penthouse in Back Bay. She's been living beyond her means for years. I thought back to our childhood. Diana, 3 years older, always wearing the right clothes, always desperate to fit in with the wealthy girls at her private school. Our parents had stretched financially to send her there, believing her when she said the public school wasn't challenging enough. I'd stayed in public school, never complaining. There's something else, Elaine said, interrupting my thoughts. Your father added a special provision to the trust. If the trustee misuses the funds, control reverts automatically to you upon discovery of the breach. Hope flickered in my chest. So legally, the moment you discovered the misuse, you became the rightful controller of whatever remains of the trust, she confirmed. Unfortunately, that's currently nothing. But it gives us legal standing to demand full restitution. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Diana just called, inviting herself to dinner tomorrow night. Says she has exciting news to share. I showed the others. What should I do? Elaine and Richard exchanged glances. Go to dinner, Elaine advised. Act normal. Let her talk. The more she reveals, the stronger our position. Record everything, Richard added. Massachusetts is a one-party consent state. Margaret squeezed my hand. And remember who you are. Not the little sister anymore. Not the one who always gives in. You're Michael Thompson's daughter, and you're fighting for what's rightfully yours. Later that night, alone in my apartment, I scrolled through Diana's Instagram again, seeing it with new eyes. The desperate need for validation behind each carefully staged photo. The insecurity masked by designer labels. For the first time, I wondered if Diana had ever been happy a single day in her life. At the family dinner, darling, you look tired, Diana said, air kissing my cheek as she swept into Mom's house. Her new Louboutins clicked on the hardwood floors. Her Chanel suit probably worth more than 3 months of my severance pay. Still job hunting? The market's so brutal for. She paused delicately. Well, for people with traditional publishing backgrounds. For older women, she meant. Diana, at 58, spent a fortune on procedures to maintain the illusion of being perpetually 45. I'm exploring some new opportunities, I replied evenly, remembering Elaine's coaching. Let her underestimate you. Let her believe she's in control. My phone was recording in my pocket. Mom emerged from the kitchen, still beautiful at 54, though grief had etched new lines around her eyes. Diana, what a lovely surprise. I've made your favorite beef Wellington. Oh, Mom, Diana sighed dramatically. I'm plant-based now, but I'll pick around the meat. I caught Mom's flash of hurt before she masked it with a smile. Another typical Diana move, ensuring everyone adjusted to her needs, never the other way around. Over dinner, Diana dominated the conversation, speaking grandly about Vogue Living's latest successes, name-dropping celebrities, describing her Maldives trip in excruciating detail. The private butler drew my bath each evening with imported French lavender oil. Absolute heaven. Sounds expensive, Mom commented mildly. Diana waved a dismissive hand, the new Van Cleef and Arpels bracelet on her wrist catching the light. Life's too short to pinch pennies. She turned to me with a practiced expression of concern. Speaking of which, Caroline, I've been thinking about your situation. I sipped my water, waiting. Perhaps this job setback is actually an opportunity, she continued. Not everyone is meant for high-pressure careers or entrepreneurial ventures. There's dignity in simpler work. My hand tightened around my glass. Actually, I've been looking into opening a small business. Diana's fork paused halfway to her mouth. A business? Oh, honey, that requires significant capital. And in this economy, the doorbell rang. Right on schedule. I'll get it, I said, rising. Richard stood on the porch, looking distinguished in his tailored suit. We'd planned this interruption carefully. Sorry to disturb your dinner, he said loudly enough for those in the dining room to hear. Caroline, could I have a quick word about those financial documents we discussed? Diana's head snapped up as I led Richard into the dining room. Richard? What are you doing here? Evening, Diana, he replied coolly. Just some paperwork with Caroline. Trust-related matters. I watched my sister's face carefully. A flicker of alarm crossed her features before she composed herself. Trust matters? Her laugh sounded forced. What trust? Dad's estate was completely depleted after his medical expenses. Richard raised an eyebrow. Is that what you think? The tension in the room thickened. Mom, who knew everything, quietly began clearing plates. Well, I should be going, Richard said after a moment. Caroline, I'll see you tomorrow morning at my office, 9 a.m. sharp. Bring those documents we discussed. He turned to Diana. You might want to be there too. Just a suggestion. After he left, Diana's perfectly maintained composure showed its first crack. What was that about? What documents? Oh, just some paperwork Dad left, I said casually. By the way, how was the infinity pool at the Four Seasons? The one you posted about? It looked amazing. She blinked, momentarily thrown. It was. Lovely. Why? Just curious about the cost. Those overwater villas must be expensive. I got a special rate, she stammered, then glanced at her watch. Oh, I'm late for an editorial meeting. Conference call with Milan. She stood abruptly. Thanks for dinner, Mom. As she gathered her things, her bracelet caught the light again. I'd seen it on her Instagram, tagged with the jeweler and price, $85,000. After she'd gone, Mom turned to me. You okay? I stopped the recording on my phone. Perfect. Did you see her face when Richard mentioned documents? She's scared. Mom nodded grimly. Good. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Dinah's face, not her fear, but the emptiness I'd glimpsed beneath the perfect makeup. The desperate need for validation that had driven her all these years. We had the same parents, I thought. The same opportunities. How did we become so different? The answer came unbidden. Diana had spent her life running from who she was, while I had spent mine afraid to become who I could be. Tomorrow would change everything for both of us. The confrontation, Richard's office at 8:55 a.m., was quiet, the morning sun streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston Harbor. Elaine sat beside me, arranging documents with meticulous precision. She'll come, Elaine assured me. People like Diana always do. They're too arrogant not to. At 9:03, Diana strode in, exuding confidence in a tailored Armani suit Birkin bag on her arm. Her self-assured smile faltered when she saw Elaine. What's this? She looked between us. I thought this was a simple banking matter. Please sit down, Richard said, gesturing to the chair across from me. We have much to discuss. I don't understand. Why? Perhaps this will help clarify things. Elaine interrupted, sliding a document across the table. This is a complete record of your withdrawals from Caroline's trust fund over the past 3 months. Diana's face paled slightly, but she recovered quickly. As trustee, I have full authority over those funds. Interesting choice of words, Elaine said, pulling out another document. Because according to the trust agreement, which you signed. You only had authority to release funds for Caroline's business venture or in case of her medical emergency. I was protecting Caroline from making hasty decisions. Diana protested, but her voice wavered. The restaurant industry is so volatile. Richard stepped forward, placing the security camera photo on the table. Is that why you forged my signature? The color drained from Diana's face. Let's be clear about what happened, Elaine continued, her voice steady. You stole nearly $300,000 from your sister's trust fund, forged banking documents, and spent the money on luxury vacations and shopping sprees. We have every transaction documented, every social media post archived, and every forged signature photographed. Diana's hands trembled as she reached for her water glass. This is ridiculous. I don't have to listen to these accusations. Actually, you do, I said, speaking for the first time, because in approximately 20 minutes, the bank's fraud department will arrive. They're very interested in that forged signature. You wouldn't, Diana whispered. We're family. Family? I played last night's recording. Her voice filled the room, dismissing my dreams while literally wearing my inheritance on her wrist. That's illegal. She snapped. You can't record people without. Perfectly legal in Massachusetts, Elaine interrupted smoothly. Would you like to hear the part where you admit to getting a special rate at the Four Seasons? Because we have the actual bill showing you paid full price with Caroline's money. Diana's composure cracked. Fine. What do you want? Full restitution, Richard said firmly. Every penny returned to the trust fund by the end of the week. That's impossible. I spent most of it, then sell your apartment, I suggested. Or that new Mercedes. The one you tagged #blessed. You can't be serious. Or, Elaine interrupted. We can let the fraud department handle this. I'm sure they'd be very interested in your other financial dealings. We've only scratched the surface of our investigation. Diana's face turned calculating. If I pay it back, this all goes away? Not quite, Richard said. You'll also resign as trustee, effective immediately. The funds will be transferred directly to Caroline's control. And Elaine added, you'll sign a confession detailing your actions. It stays sealed unless you ever try something like this again. You're blackmailing me. Diana hissed. No, I said quietly. We're giving you a chance. A chance to avoid prison, which is more than you gave me when you stole my future. A knock at the door made everyone jump. Richard's assistant poked her head in. Sir, the bank's fraud investigators are here. Should I send them in? Diana's shoulders slumped. Wait, she turned to me, desperation in her eyes. I'll do it. I'll pay it back. Just don't let them in. Elaine pulled out a stack of papers. Sign these now, then call your bank and initiate the first transfer. As Diana signed with shaking hands, I felt no triumph, only a profound sadness. How had we come to this? I hope you're happy, Diana muttered, pushing the signed papers across the table. You've ruined our relationship forever. No, Diana, I replied, standing up. You did that when you decided your luxury vacation was worth more than Dad's dying wish for me. After she left to make her bank transfers, Richard squeezed my shoulder. Your father would be so proud. It's not over yet, Elaine cautioned. We need to monitor those transfers. Make sure everything goes through. She'll do it, I said confidently. She's too scared of the alternative now. Later that day, I checked Diana's Instagram one last time. She had posted a final message. Life has a way of humbling us when we least expect it. Time for some serious reflection. #lessons learned #karma. I closed the app. I wouldn't need to monitor her social media anymore. I had more important things to focus on now, like bringing Dad's recipe collection to life in a cooking school that would honor his memory. Reconciliation. 3 days later, as I evaluated potential locations for my cooking school, Richard called with news. The last transfer just came through. Every penny accounted for, plus the interest she owed. Relief washed over me. After 3 days of tense waiting, watching partial transfers trickle in as Diana liquidated her assets, it was finally done. Look at this, Margaret said, holding up her phone. Diana's selling her Mercedes on Facebook Marketplace. Listed an hour ago. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Diana's here. Says she needs to talk to you. She seems different. I looked at Margaret uncertainly. I thought we were done. Want me to come with you? She offered. I shook my head. No. This is between sisters now. The drive to Mom's house felt surreal. When I arrived, Diana's old Honda Civic, a car I hadn't seen in years, sat in the driveway where her Mercedes used to be. The sight gave me a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. Inside, Mom sat quietly at the kitchen table while Diana paced the room. My sister had traded her designer clothes for simple jeans and a sweater. Without her usual armor of luxury brands, she looked smaller somehow. Older, more like me. Finally, she snapped when she saw me. Do you have any idea what you've done to me? My reputation. My lifestyle. Your lifestyle, I repeated calmly. You mean the one you built by stealing my trust fund? I was going to pay it back. She ran her hands through her hair, unwashed, I noticed, without its usual professional blowout. I just needed a little time to spend more? Post more photos of my stolen money? Diana, Mom cut in sharply. I think you should leave if you're just here to attack Caroline. No, not until she understands. Diana turned to me, eyes wild. I lost everything because of you. My coworkers are whispering behind my back. The board is questioning my judgment. I had to sell my car. I'm selling my apartment. You lost everything because of your own choices, I corrected her. Nobody forced you to forge signatures or empty my account. You don't understand how hard things have been for me. Hard? I felt my careful composure crack. I worked 20 years at Pearson only to be pushed out at 52. Dad spent years building that fund for me, and you blew it on infinity pools and designer handbags. Your father, she spat, always favored you. His little chef, always in the kitchen together, always sharing your special recipes and plans. He never looked at me the way he looked at you. The accusation stunned me into silence. For my entire life, I had believed Diana was the favorite. You got the same love he did, Mom said quietly. You just couldn't see it because you were always looking elsewhere for validation. And now, I added, finding my voice. You've chosen this path, all by yourself. Diana slumped into a chair, the fight draining out of her. What am I supposed to do now? I'm nearly 60. Starting over. Join the club, I said, with unexpected gentleness. Get a job within your means. Live authentically. You know, like normal people do. Mom reached across the table to touch Diana's hand. I saw you listed your apartment. Had to. The maintenance alone is more than I can afford now. She looked up at me, and for the first time in decades, I saw my sister instead of the carefully constructed persona she created. I really messed up, didn't I? Yes, I said simply. You did. My phone buzzed. An email from a realtor about a potential space for my cooking school. My heart raced as I read the details. What is it? Mom asked. The old Harris building on Tremont Street, I said, excitement creeping into my voice. It's available for lease. Perfect location, already zoned for commercial kitchen use. It's perfect. Mom rushed to hug me while Diana sat watching, a complex emotion on her face, envy mingled with something that might have been admiration. Congratulations, she said softly. You'll do well there. You've always had Dad's touch with food. Thank you, I replied, surprised by the genuine tone in her voice. She stood, gathering her practical handbag, no designer logo in sight. I should go. I have a job interview tomorrow at Boston Magazine. Associate editor position. A major step down, but good luck, I said, meaning it. After she left, Mom turned to me. Are you okay? I nodded, looking at the property listing again. I think I actually am. That night, as I sketched preliminary layouts for my cooking school, I thought about Diana, not with anger anymore, but with a complicated mixture of pity and hope. She'd lost her expensive car, her luxury apartment, her carefully curated social media image. But maybe, just maybe, she'd gained something more valuable. a chance to discover who she really was beneath all those designer labels. 3 months later, a little to the left, I called to the workman installing the sign above the entrance. Michael's Table Culinary School gleamed in warm copper letters against the restored brick facade of the Tremont Street building. Margaret stood beside me on the sidewalk, coffee in hand. "It's beautiful, Caroline. He would have loved this." "I think so too," I replied, emotion tightening my throat. Inside, the renovation was nearly complete. Professional cooking stations arranged in a semicircle. A demonstration area with overhead mirrors. Climate-controlled wine storage. Everything I dreamed of during those long Sunday afternoons cooking with Dad. "First class starts in 2 weeks," I said, still hardly believing it. Basics of French cuisine. Already filled to capacity. Because everyone in Boston knows Michael Thompson's daughter must have inherited his genius, Margaret smiled. My phone buzzed with a text from Richard. "Final inspection approved. You're officially in business." Then another from Mom. "So proud of you, darling." Dad would be beaming. As we walked through the space, checking final details, the bell over the door chimed. I turned, expecting the florist with sample arrangements for opening night. Instead, Diana stood in the doorway, clutching a small package. "Is this a bad time?" she asked hesitantly. She looked different. Not just the absence of designer clothes or the simpler hairstyle. There was a groundedness to her I hadn't seen since we were children. "No, come in," I said, surprising myself. I was just showing Margaret the final touches. Margaret nodded politely to Diana, then squeezed my arm. "I'll go check on those linens we ordered. Take your time." As she left, an awkward silence fell between my sister and me. "The place looks amazing," Diana finally said, looking around. "Very you. Elegant but unpretentious." "Thank you," I replied. "How's the new job?" "Challenging." "Humbling." She smiled ruefully. "I'm the oldest associate editor by about 20 years, but I'm learning to value substance over status." Finally, she held out the package. "I brought you something. For your opening." I unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a leather-bound book. I opened it to find handwritten recipes, dozens of them, in my father's distinctive script. "Where did you get these?" I whispered. "I found them when I was moving out of my apartment. Dad gave them to me years ago, but She looked down. "I never appreciated them then. I thought they were just old recipes. Now I understand they were his legacy. They belong here, with you." I ran my fingers over his handwriting, emotion threatening to overwhelm me. Our father's signature dishes, the ones that had made his restaurant famous, the ones he'd never fully written down because he said cooking was about feeling, not formulas. "Diana, this is..." "Thank you." She nodded, then reached into her bag again. "There's something else. My first 3 paychecks from Boston Magazine." She held out an envelope. "It's not much compared to what I took, but it's honest money." I thought maybe. "A scholarship?" "For a student who couldn't otherwise afford your classes." I stared at the envelope, then at my sister. "I can't take that. Please." Her voice caught. "Not because it makes up for anything, but because it represents something new. Something earned through honest work, not pretense." The gesture moved me more than I could express. Not for the money itself, which was indeed modest, but for what it represented, Diana finally understanding the value of things earned rather than taken. "Okay," I said softly. "The Michael Thompson Memorial Scholarship. For a promising student who needs a second chance." She smiled, a real smile, not the camera-ready one I'd grown used to seeing in her magazine photos. "Second chances." "Yes. That feels right." Impulsively, I asked, "Would you like to stay? Help me finish setting up the bar for the soft opening next week?" Surprise flickered across her face, followed by genuine pleasure. "I'd like that." As we worked side by side, arranging glasses and stocking the wine cellar, Diana spoke more honestly than she had in years. About her crippling fear of aging in a youth-obsessed industry. About the crushing debt she'd accumulated trying to maintain appearances. About her envy of my closer relationship with our father. I always thought he favored you, I admitted, organizing bottles of premium olive oil. Diana paused, a stack of napkins in her hands. And I always thought he favored you. Funny how perspectives work. She carefully arranged the napkins in a perfect fan. I spent so many years trying to be someone else. Someone important. Someone worthy of attention. And now? I asked. She smoothed the napkin, her movements precise. Now I'm taking a business accounting class at the community college. Trying to understand the finances I ignored for so long. My therapist says it's about taking control, being honest with myself. The sun slanted through the windows, casting long shadows across the polished counters. In that moment, I saw the little girl Diana had once been, building elaborate sandcastles, always needing them to be the biggest, always needing to impress. You know, I said, leaning against the counter, there's going to be a lot of administrative work when we open. Bookkeeping, scheduling, social media that's actually about the business, not just for show. She looked up, understanding dawning slowly. Are you offering me a job? Not a job. A partnership. Part-time, mind you. You still have your position at the magazine. But maybe we could both use what we've learned. You spent 20 years in publishing. I spent 20 years in editing. Between us, we know a lot about what works and what doesn't. Partners? The word seemed to catch in her throat. After everything I did, I thought about Dad's recipes, now safely stored in my office. His legacy of bringing people together around a table, of believing that the best meals were those shared with those you loved, even when that love was complicated. Second chances, remember? I said, for both of us. That evening, after Diana had left, I sat alone in what would soon be our culinary school. I opened Dad's recipe book to the first page, where he'd written his philosophy on cooking and life. The secret ingredient is always love, even when the dish doesn't turn out exactly as planned. Outside, the Boston skyline twinkled as dusk fell. At 52, I was starting over. Not alone, but surrounded by unexpected allies, even my sister, whom I'd written off as irredeemable just months ago. I uncapped my pen and added my own note beneath Dad's words. And sometimes, the dish turns out better for having been broken and remade. Epilogue. 6 months later, Michael's Table Culinary School hosted its first charity dinner, raising funds for the newly established Second Chances Scholarship. The dining room buzzed with conversation and laughter as students served a 6-course menu inspired by Dad's classic recipes. Diana, elegant in a simple black dress rather than her former designer armor, managed the front of house with unexpected skill. Her magazine connections had brought in food critics and local celebrities, but it was her genuine enthusiasm that made the event shine. Your father would be so proud, Mom whispered, squeezing my hand as we watched the event unfold. Not just of the school, but of you too. Finding your way back to each other. As I made my rounds through the dining room, stopping to chat with guests and accept congratulations, I caught sight of Diana by the bar. For a moment, she thought no one was watching, and I glimpsed something I hadn't seen in decades, my sister, simply being herself, no performance necessary. Later, as the last guest departed and the staff finished cleaning up, Diana and I sat at the chef's table with glasses of Dad's favorite Bordeaux. To Michael, she said, raising her glass. For believing in second chances. To second chances, I echoed. And to the courage to take them. Outside, snow had begun to fall, blanketing Boston in pristine white. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, menu planning, class schedules, the endless details of running a business. But tonight, in this moment, I felt only gratitude. For my father's legacy, for my own belated courage, and yes, even for the betrayal that had forced me to finally claim my dreams. Diana raised her glass once more. And to new beginnings, little sister. However late they may be. We clinked glasses, the sound ringing clear in the quiet kitchen. Two middle-aged women, scarred by life and their own mistakes, finally learning to see each other and themselves clearly. The journey hadn't been what either of us expected. But then, the most important journeys rarely are.